Welcome to the Go Flush Yourself podcast with Jared Kirk and Matt Milbauer. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Go Flush Yourself podcast. As always, I'm Matt Milbauer here with my co-host Jared Kirk, and we are joined today by Chris Maurer. Chris, I didn't ask how to say your last name. How do I pronounce your last name?
Maurer. You're right there. It's
Maurer.
like Eddie Bauer,
so
but with an M.
So close. Maurer. Okay. I should really know that. It's not that far from my last name. So,
Sound good. We could be related.
Hey, I'm sure if you go back far enough, you probably are.
Yeah.
Chris is here today to talk about Boykin Spaniels, a breed we haven't talked about yet, a breed Jared and I really don't have a lot or maybe not any experience with. But I've always been curious about. I know over the years, as Jared and I have been friends, we've always talked about, a Boykin might be a good choice for us. So I'm glad we have Chris here to talk about that today. So Chris, why don't you start off, just tell us a little about yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to the conversation tonight, and any opportunity to talk with folks and help introduce them to the breed is always something that I value. I came to know the breed about 20 years ago, and I guess we can talk about that a little bit later. But I currently live in North Carolina. I found the breed when I lived in Georgia in like 2002, and have moved around the country a little bit. I lived in Georgia for 15 years. That's where I met my wife and the breed, and then moved to Michigan, which is closer to home. I'm originally from Indiana. Northwest Indiana is where I was born and raised. And so when we moved to Michigan, it was a good opportunity to get back closer to home. But anytime you move, it challenges, like your hunting grounds and your training grounds and all that stuff. You got to find all new locations to do all that stuff. And so we lived up there for about 5 years and then had a chance to move again with work. I've been with the same company for about 26 years. So we moved down to North Carolina and have been down here since 2021. And so it's been fun to be able to compete with my dogs in different states. It was fun in Michigan. There weren't too many Boykin Spaniels up there either. So a bunch of people were questioning, hey, what kind of dog is that? And got a chance to kind of help introduce and start a club up there as well, the Great Lakes Boykin Spaniel Retriever Club. So it's been fun. I guess my real love for dogs started at a young age. I had an uncle who had labs, and he and his buddies ran field trials. And so I'm one of four. I'm the oldest of four boys, and happened to have a pretty good arm. And so he quickly recruited me and my brothers over time to throw birds for them in training and then at field trials. And so I always thought that I'd end up with a lab. Him and the two other guys that trained with them always said that once I got out of college and got my first house, they'd help set me up with a kennel and my first lab. And so I subsequently graduated and then moved to Georgia and all that kind of went by the wayside. So and then that's where I found the breed. So I can go into any more detail, or if that raises any questions you guys want to dig into, happy to tackle some of those.
Well, being over here on the West Coast, I know Jared we were talking about this earlier. He had a great question about Boykins. So we don't see a lot of them.
Yeah, that was kind of because before I got Bones, I was like, doing the standard, like looking for what kind of dog I wanted. And Boykins came up a whole bunch. And then subsequently it came up to trying to find a Boykin breeder over here, which I've subsequently found a couple. But at the time, I just either was wrong Google foo or what, but I couldn't find a breeder. They don't seem to be super popular over here. And yeah, just on paper, they look just about perfect, in all honesty, for I think majority of how people hunt. I'm just kind of curious, why do you think they're not as popular as they probably should be, honestly?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I would say a big part of the answer lies in the fact that the Boykin Spaniel Society wasn't really even formed until 1977. The breed is one of two breeds that were actually established in the U.S. And it started back in the early 1900s, somewhere, we don't actually know the real date, but somewhere between 1900 and 1905 and 1910. A guy named Alexander White was on his way to church, and the dog followed him to church. And on his way home from church, he got out of church and was headed home, and the dog just kind of hung around him, and he liked him and kind of gave him a shot, like I think most of us would do when a dog follows us home. Don't know if he had to explain to his wife what was going on, but certainly this is the way the story goes. And so White was a pretty avid hunter, and he had a buddy named Whit Boykin who was the buddy who was a little bit better of a trainer. And so he said, this dog is kind of showing some aptitude to retrieve, and it's a really good companion. Why don't you see what you can do with this dog? And so Whit Boykin started training him, and found out that the dog definitely loved to retrieve, but also had some tendencies for flushing and quartering. And so he actually used the dog to start flushing and breaking up turkey flocks, and getting the dog to come back to him, lay down by his side where he could start calling. As the flock started to regroup, he could then call in a bird and started harvesting birds. So it was a neat way to hunt turkeys. And I actually got to experience that with some friends in Pennsylvania a couple of years ago. I got invited to a hunt with Rich and Kelly Musser, who had a dog that did that. And it's really cool to watch it happen. That's what they were actually developed for. Kind of interesting fact, they also have a docked tail because of that. Like all spaniels, their tails wag all the time. And so you can imagine turkey hunting, like, right, being still is a key element of turkey hunting. And to have a dog's tail wagging back and forth, disturbing leaves, or just even the movement could be a problem. So that's how the tail originally came to be a docked tail for the Boykin Spaniel. So at birth, they're all docked, or a couple days after birth. So as time went on, they started crossing the dog with some Chesapeakes, some Cockers, some Springers, and got the breed to be what it pretty well is known today. And this was all happening in the Spartanburg, South Carolina area. And over time, there was a vet there that saw a lot of these dogs and went to the Boykin family at one point and said, there are a ton of these dogs that are coming into my office that don't look anything like what you guys want them to look like, or what you've described to me for this breed to potentially be. You ought to consider doing something about it, creating a society or something like that to create an official standard, so that all these other people that are saying they have a quote Boykin Spaniel, you have some kind of alignment into what the breed looks like. And so in '77, the Boykin family created the Boykin Spaniel Society, wrote a standard, solicited people around the area that they knew had dogs, and sent out a request to anybody that they suspected might have a Boykin Spaniel, collected photos, images, and created their standard. And from there, they had some foundation stock that they used, that they said, these dogs for sure are Boykin Spaniels, and future Boykin Spaniels can only come from these dogs. And so, that's 1977 when the society was formed. So you can imagine trying to get the breed from a real regionalized area, and really, if you look across the country from a registration standpoint, that's where most of the Boykins are at, on the East Coast. So South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, Georgia, Alabama, Florida. I would say probably Tennessee you could add, and maybe even Kentucky, probably the highest concentration of them. But then it just kind of diffuses across the country. So there is a Western States Boykin Spaniel Club that's been formed in the last couple of years. The last couple of years, the society's seen a ton of growth. I've sat on the board of the Boykin Spaniel Society 2 or 3 different terms. So it's been a pleasure to be able to do that and watch the society grow over time. So long answer to a short question. I think what you should see over the next couple of years is more and more Boykins start to show up on the West Coast. I can tell you that there's a guy in Southern California. I don't know if he lives in San Diego proper, but he got a puppy last year, and he won at our Puppy Retriever Nationals, the puppy stake. It's for dogs 12 months and under. So we got somebody who's got a dog that's performing pretty good on the West Coast, at least on the retriever side right now. So Jared, I'm not sure if that answers your question or not.
No, it does. It's kind of interesting. Like you said, it's like there's only like two dogs that were actually originated in the United States. So that makes sense. I still think they seem like they deserve to be a little more popular. And hopefully that becomes the case, just because, like I said, on paper, they seem just about perfect.
Yeah, the registry. So, the breed is growing at a really significant rate right now, just like any breed that grows. Like you start off kind of slow, and then the trend line really starts to increase. And that's what we're seeing right now. So there's you can find a lot of litters. You know, the thing I would encourage anybody that's listening is really do your homework. And to me, this really doesn't matter if you're buying a lab, a Springer, a Cocker, a GSP, whatever. Do your homework when you get a dog, and don't let your enthusiasm for wanting a dog get in the way of bringing home a dog that may not have the best health clearances to begin with and potentially become a longer term problem. I've seen it happen a number of times. There's a lot of people out there that are advertising good litters, and they're just not always the case. Or even people who are saying stealing people's information and taking deposits for dogs that they don't even have.
Wow.
It's terrible. And I suspect all breeds are experiencing this. I'm just probably more familiar because I hear it with our breed.
That's awful. So I kind of want to add to that too. When you, especially I think your first, let's just say bird dog to be safe, but like with your first bird dog, it really is easy to let your enthusiasm overstep like your reasoning and logic when it comes to that. You can know, here's exactly what I should do. Here's red flags look for. You can know all that stuff, but if you see a puppy, like all of that can be thrown out the window pretty quick if you're not careful. And one of those things too is if you have people that know you well, but have a lot of experience in bird dogs, like those are good folks to listen to that can help you find a breed and find a breeder that can kind of be that voice of reason on the outside that also has some knowledge behind what to look for, what not to look for. So good solid advice there.
Yeah.
So with a Boykin, so obviously Jared and I both have, as we've talked about in the past, have Springers. I grew up with labs. Jared had a Chessie, we think Chessie Golden Mix for a little bit. So we've seen different flushing dogs. What makes the Boykin special or different from the other flushing breeds out there?
Yeah, so I actually got a chance to run a field trial last weekend. The Watery Spaniel Club of South Carolina had a minor breed stake, which allowed like Boykins, Clumbers, there was a Welsh Springer, Poodles even got to run there because they're not classified by the AKC as sporting dogs. And it's always fun to get to watch other breeds work because it helps you identify, like, do I have the breed that really suits me? And a lot of times I really think there's a lot of guys from different clubs or breeds that would say, oh, this breed is the best. You can't get any better than this. And I think what you really got to find, I think there's a ton of really great dogs in the world. What you really got to do is find the breed that suits you. And the thing that I found about the Boykin that really suits me is one is its versatility, but the upland work, it's really nice. They I would say, if I was going to compare them to some other breeds, I would say they have the enthusiasm of a Springer without the speed, so the Springer, the speed of the Springer and even the Cocker sometimes is incredible. And I would say the Boykins tend to be a little bit more methodical. They're natural flushers. I've got a dog that's a little over a year old right now, and we're getting ready for our Upland Nationals next weekend. And I'm not doing anything with her on the flushing side until I get some of her retrieving titles. But like I've been taking cripples that we get from training and just turning them loose in the field, taking her for a walk, and she naturally quarters. Like, it is amazing to me how well she already understands the value of the wind, and with no training. And so to me, it's good that this is instinctual for the breed. So Jared, like I heard you saying earlier, like I was thinking about it, but I just couldn't find a good one. It seems like it suits me well. If you like a Springer, I have no doubt that you would enjoy a Boykin. They're good in the house. They love a job. They love to be very, like if you don't give them some type of job, a lot of times I feel like they can be a little mischievous, but I think all dogs can be.
Yeah.
So yeah, in the field, they tend to hunt well, they retrieve well, they mark well. 99% of the upland work I do right now is for field trials. And so we want them to be able to work in our open class. They have to run in brace. So they have to sit to the flush shot and wait to be released. And they also have to honor the brace mate that's working when a bird is flushed shot, even if it's not theirs. And it's fun to watch it happen, and they can do it as good as anybody. So, I'm not, not sure if I'm answering your question or not, but it's awesome to watch the dogs use their natural ability and how quickly they do a good job of working the wind. And as a handler, sometimes how good a job we do is screwing it up for them, trying to handle them into a pattern we don't necessarily, or that we want them to run when they're actually using the wind in the right way.
With your trials, or maybe with your testing, I keep hearing you say retrieving, and then is there like a field portion of that as well, more of like an upland type one? Because I know with springers and cockers, it's mostly, I mean, there's retrieve on the water for a test, but it's mostly upland looking, like it looks like an upland hunt. And when you have a lab, let's just say, and looking at their testing, it looks like a waterfowl hunt. It's marking and retrieving mostly. What does the testing or trialing look like for the Boykin?
Yeah, so we do have two different field trials through the Boykin Spaniel Society. So we have a retrieving national field trial, and we have an upland national field trial. And the upland national field trial sounds a lot like what you described. We have 3 classes. So we have a novice, an intermediate, and an open class. And the novice stake, the dogs don't have to be steady to flush, but it is going to be in a field that's got, usually it's going to start in broom straw. They may end up in the woods. Novice seldom will go to the woods, but they'll do somewhere between 1 and 4 series and try to find a dog that's done the best job of demonstrating like young dog skills on working a field, working the wind, flushing birds, and retrieving birds once they're shot. Our intermediate class, the dog has to be able to, once they flush the bird, they have to sit, and they're going to have somewhere again between 2 and 5 series that'll all be flushing. They will have a retrieving series at the end, but it's like a single marked retrieve, 20, 30 yard mark retrieve in water. And it also should simulate, like if you're hunting around in some cattails around a pond and one of those birds gets up and you shoot that thing and it lands in the water, you got to be able to demonstrate that your dog can get out there and get it. So the water retrieve portion of our test seeks to demonstrate that.
Right.
So that's the intermediate level. And then once you get to our open level, dogs work in brace. So you got 2 dogs working at the same time. The first 2 series, you run 1 series under 1 judge, 2nd series under the other judge if you're called back. And then the third series is generally under both judges. If they need a 4th series, they'll make the determination of what that looks like. And then we do wrap that up with a water series that looks, I would say, very similar to a senior test, an AKC hunt test, or a season test in an HRC type setting where the dog has to watch 2 birds fall and also do a blind retrieve to finish the open series. So, the idea there, the Boykin family wanted the breed to be versatile. They wanted them hunting in the swamp. They wanted them flushing stuff. And the way that the rules for the upland flushing or the upland national retriever test, it requires both the flushing and 1 water series. Now, we do, go ahead.
Oh, no, keep going. I have kind of a different question about that.
Yeah, so I was going to go to the retriever side of it and compare and contrast that, because that's more like what UC Lab's doing, or like a weekend AKC or HRC hunt test type setting.
What you're describing is all through the Boykin Spaniel Society. It's not AKC, UKC. It's its own thing.
Yeah, and there are AKC hunt tests that the Boykins can compete in, and where they earn titles, but it's seldom a field trial where it's dog versus dog.
And Boykins are in AKC. So if you have a papered Boykin, you probably have the AKC paperwork, I imagine. Yes. What's most common. So when you're looking at a pedigree, you're not going to, if a dog's competing in the Boykin Spaniel Society test, and maybe it's very well titled, you're not going to see that necessarily on the AKC pedigree. So when you're looking at puppies, I mean, you might be kind of plugged in and you just know this is where I want to go get a puppy. But if someone new were looking, how would they try to understand the dog's pedigree? Not that that's everything, but it definitely is a place to start, to understand like what they're getting, what the DNA might be in that dog if they're not seeing it on the AKC pedigree. Yeah, I love that. So this to me is where the importance comes into doing your homework. If I was to give a friend advice about, like, they're getting their first Boykin Spaniel, what should I be looking for?
the first thing I would tell them is ask for pedigrees and, and health clearances. You want to know, what health clearances do the dog have? Do the parents have good hips? Do they have bad hips? Do they have, are they carriers for exercise-induced collapse or collie-eye anomaly? Or, there's a handful of things that most breeds test for. Companies like Paw Print Genetics will be able to help you with that. And then the other thing I would probably ask them is like, can you tell me a little bit about what you've done with the dog? Has it been a hunter its whole life, or does it come from a line of dogs that have been in competitive events like AKC Hunt Test or AKC Field Trials or HRC? Like, I would ask for multiple pedigrees to explain, or what the titles in front of the dog, the letters in front of or after the dog's name mean, because some of those letters mean they've been in a show ring, and some of them mean they've been in the field. Sure. And if you want a dog that's been in the field, I would probably ask to confirm that those letters mean something about the field.
Is there documentation that a potential buyer could see to show, or maybe it's the place online, I don't know, to see what the Boykin Spaniel Society results were for like the parents or other dogs in the puppy's lineage? Yeah,
so the one thing that I would say is pretty cool about the Boykin Spaniel Society's pedigree is you can always modify your dog's name. So if you earn another title, you have the ability to say, my dog is like AK or a HRC hunt test. My dog's a hunting retriever champion. So I could modify the dog's name with the Boykin Spaniel Society to reflect HRCH, which is a designation that the HRC uses for that title, and it would show up on the society's pedigree. Nice. If they've won a national championship, it'll say N for national open champion, NOC, and the year that they were the national open champion. If there's upland, it'll say national open upland champion. So there's designations on the society's pedigree that will tell you what it's done for sure within the society. You can add the ones from the other registries.
And that would come down to the breeder or the kennel taking the time to go do that, right? So yep. I have this theory that I've peddled a few times on the podcast about when you're looking at breeders, sometimes, obviously not every time, when you see one with a really fancy web page, it doesn't automatically mean high quality breeder. It's sometimes that can be they have a fancy web page and that's all they have right now. They're just maybe getting started, or they haven't done the testing and whatnot. And sometimes some of the best breeders don't even have a web page. They just word of mouth. Everyone knows that's where you go. Yeah. So I get when I hear you can change your name. I think that's really cool. You can change their name to update with titles and whatnot. That's a really nice feature compared to what AKC can do. But it also makes me worried. Are the really good breeders that everyone just knows about? They probably don't need to go in and change their names, right? They can everyone knows those dogs and what they are and what the background is.
Sure. And this is still a pretty small crowd, within the society. I think it's less than 20% of the society members actually compete in Boykin Spaniel Society field trials or hunt tests. And so, because the breed is so new, there's a bunch of Boykins that participate in that are shown in the ring. There's some of them that do agility and a variety of things. There's some service dogs out there. I know there was one dog out west in, I think it was Jackson, Wyoming, that was a avalanche search and rescue dog.
Wow, so that's cool.
Yeah, it's a different kind of upland for sure, trying to dig somebody out of a hole.
That's good.
Yeah,
Jared, do you have any more questions? You have another question for Chris?
Yeah, I just so. I mean, obviously, you're pretty much in the Boykin world. How have you I'm assuming you've seen other dogs hunt and stuff like that. How would you, for someone that doesn't or that's looking at a Boykin or trying to figure it out, what would you compare a Boykin to, I guess, so they kind of have a good idea of what they're kind of getting themselves into?
Yeah. It makes perfect sense. So I would say, size-wise, they can be similar in size to a Springer. Mm-hmm. So, if size is an important consideration, which every household has considerations for what their house can accommodate, right? So size-wise, they can be anywhere from 25 pounds to 45, 50 pounds. I would say that's pretty close to the standard. I would generally say they're a slower Springer. I mean, they have great dispositions. Springers have awesome dispositions. They want to be with you. They're friendly. They don't meet a stranger. They're great with kids. I don't know. Our neighbor kids play with our dogs all the time. Sometimes undo a good bit of training when they get a hold of a bumper and I'm not around. And so, but seriously, like they are a great dog. And one of the things I came to appreciate having had family with labs was that I've got 3 Boykins right now. They roughly eat what a lab and a quarter would eat. So if you're looking at if the food bill or budget is a consideration for you and your household right now, they don't eat as much. They don't make as big a mess in the yard as the lab makes or a GSP. And so, some of that stuff is all relative, but it's a real world consideration if people will be honest with themselves when they're selecting a bird dog. They don't need as big a crate as a lab needs, or if you've got a crate that holds a lab and you're traveling, you can put 2 Boykins in a lab's crate usually. So there's little things like that I say are really good. I've hunted mine, and I don't know where they come out of the water and end up with ice on their coat for a while, and they're good to hunt a little while longer. And they do really good in warm weather. They're great dove dogs if that's something else that you like to shoot. The ability to have a dog that'll work doves and ducks and upland game is awesome. My guys have picked up pheasants, chuckers, quail, grouse, a variety of things from Michigan to Georgia and North Dakota for that matter too. We've been up there a couple times.
So it seems like where you lose maybe some of the speed, let's just say from a Springer, because they're similar in size.
Yep.
You also pick some up and maybe the hardiness because they're double coated, right? Like my Springers get cold if it gets too cold. They don't have a lot of fur and they have the single coat. So I imagine maybe you pick it up there and that might be kind of beneficial for all of us up north.
Yeah, and I would check on their coats too, because like not all of them have that super double thick coat. Really? Yeah. I mean, let's see. Our middle dog right now, we got him out of a litter in Shreveport, Louisiana, and we lived in Michigan at the time. And man, he was raised in the cold. I brought him home in like November, and he did awesome in the cold weather from the beginning. And I don't know if it's because he was exposed to it early and that changed some of his, like how he developed and why his coat was different. But even to this day, like it's 28 degrees today. If I walk by the pond outside, he would jump in it without hesitation or reservation and swim for 15 or 20 minutes because he just likes to. So they are watery dogs. They're great in water.
Yeah. The Chessies are kind of known, how do I put this nicely, like as a more independently minded dog, at least if you're comparing to a lab in the retriever world. Did the Boykins get any of that from their Chessie ancestors, where they're a little more independently minded than maybe a Cocker or a Springer?
You can definitely get that. So, and I'll give you an example. Like I've got 3 different dogs that are out of 3 very different dams and sires. And my oldest guy, he's almost 11. From the time he was young, like he always has wanted to be with me and work with me and just be an excellent partner. Some of his litter mates, I know one in particular would hunt for himself, like he was his own man. And so my middle dog, he can be fine on his own, but if you ask him to do something, he will absolutely do it. My youngest one right now, and she's just over a year. Right now, she's surprisingly pretty independent. So I think sometimes the litter is a lot like kids. They all have different characteristics, and trying to find the one that really suits you is sometimes a challenge. But I think the other flip side of it is also trying to recognize with the dogs, like just like you would with kids, if they're really good at this, how do I find and nurture this with them to try to bring the most out of them and work with, are they a little more independent? And I can find a way to be creative to try to solve that.
Yeah, that really is the thing, is like one of my Springers hunts a lot more independently. I got her as a 2-year-old adult and she kind of lived on her own on a ranch. Like she didn't have to listen to anyone if she didn't want to. She went out and chased rabbits and whatever she wanted to find. So when I take her hunting, she'll put her nose to the ground. All of a sudden I'm like, where did Sophie go? And
Yeah.
I'm checking. I have a GPS collar just for that. Like, okay, she's like 50 yards that way. I got to get her back. My other dog
Sure.
had her since 8 weeks old. There's no way I could lose her if I wanted to. Right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but yeah, to your point, it's one of those things where, when you get a puppy, you try to eliminate kind of questions by finding the right breed or the right litter and that kind of thing. And it's ideal when if you can get to the point to where you feel so good about it, you can kind of pick any of the puppies in the litter and know I'm going to be pretty safe here. But
Yeah.
if you can get to that, even once you get that dog home and you start working with it as it grows, they will have strengths and they will have weaknesses within that breed usually. And yeah, you get to your point, you got to find how to nurture the stuff they're good at and then how to strengthen the stuff that they're not so good at least so it's tolerable in the field and depending on
Sure.
what your goals are with that dog. So yeah, that's a very good point to keep in mind no matter what breed you have.
Yeah, and I also think you also nailed something. I think a dog left to its own devices learns to be its own master.
Yeah.
But like when we're gone, whether we're at work or whatever, our dogs are crated. We crate them at night. Well, I know when I travel, one of them ends up in the bed because I always find the dog hair when I come back from being gone for a couple nights. But largely, our dogs are crated, so they know when they're out of the crate, they generally have a job. We're doing something or they're expected to be doing something. And like right now, all three of them are laying at my feet. They're crashed out. But if I jump up to go outside, like they're ready to do it. So I think the nature versus nurture thing is a pretty important thing. If you teach them early on, you go do your own thing and be happy with it, and then want them to flip the switch and say, I need you to do what I want you to do right now. That's not an easy thing.
Yeah.
So I do think there's value in being really deliberate with what you do with the dogs and the expectations for the dogs, because there is nothing inhumane about dogs being in a crate. In fact, ours go in the crate sometimes when they're tired just to kind of get away from the other two or whatever.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, I've always crate trained mine, and just this morning, I work from home, so dogs are out. I was getting things ready in the morning, getting coffee and stuff, and I came up to my office up here, and the garbage can, so little garbage can, was knocked over. Nothing was torn out of it really. It just was knocked over. Both dogs are in their crates, looking at me, doors open, like, we knocked it over. Sorry, boss. We didn't mean to. We know we're in trouble. Just lock us away. And I'm like, it's just hilarious. Like they knew, but they knew to go to their crates, right? They knew this is a safe spot. This is where I should be. I knew I did something wrong. Like,
yeah,
it was comical to see, but yeah, no. And I do a thing too. Like I've hunted people. I've had dogs in the past too personally. It's not just other people's dogs. My dogs too in the past. I've learned this lesson the hard way. Like if you have more than one dog and you go hunting, you only take one out of the truck. You leave one up. Like the other one might start crying and barking and whining. Like, what the heck? Why'd you leave me behind? But I've been doing this thing because my other Springer did that. Was doing that. We hear her howling and walked away and crying. Normally a quiet dog, and it's like I'll just put them both in the truck and their crates in the back and drive around town, get gas, come back home. It's like, yeah, we're back home. Like not every truck trip's a hunting trip. Not every time you go into cannibalism, you're gonna get something. Like there's all those things you got to think about. So it's with all dogs really, but if we're talking flushing dogs, like they get a little irritated in that, and you got to think about it. But yeah, dogs will learn to do things for themselves, and yeah, I'm with you on crating and kenneling. Like people like to personify dogs a lot, and there's nothing wrong with that. We have 2 Yorkies at our house. My wife's dogs are 4 pounds, and we don't call them dogs. What do we call them? We call them non-human people, because that's how they're treated, right? They're treated like little people, and they get a little dressed up, and they get little bows in their hair, and their hair brushed, and all that stuff. Yeah. But like that's fine. They're Yorkies. Like, what's it gonna hurt? But with bird dogs and dogs that are high energy, like a lot of our spaniels and stuff can be, like they're still dogs, and going in the crate's not like putting a kid in a crate.
Sure.
And there's
well said.
Yeah,
well said.
I really like that point. I kind of got a roundabout way of just saying I agree with you, but
yeah,
no, and it's part of it.
Shut up, Matt.
Yeah,
no, I crate my dogs too, because it's like usually when I come home from hunting with Bones, like he comes home and goes right in his crate and just crashes for a while.
Yeah,
what he does. It's a good place. Yeah,
their spot. My kids go to their rooms to hang out and get away and get quiet time, and dogs go into their crates. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's fun. Like, and this is why I say it. I said it at the beginning of the show. Like, it's people just got to find a dog that they can commit time to, and they're gonna get what they put into it. And to me, that's a lot of what it comes down to. And not everybody has a ton of time to put into it. So you also have to be, in my mind,
Yeah.
fair with your expectations. Like, do I have a dog that's doing as much as I trained it to do, more or less? Because if it's not living up to your expectations, I always want to know why. Did I not teach this dog properly? Did I, there's a variety of scenarios you could come up with, but a lot of it, oftentimes, if I'm being honest with myself and look in the mirror, it's probably something I didn't quite do if the dog isn't meeting my expectation.
Yeah, it's often us, right? Yeah, it's rarely the dog's fault that it's doing something that you don't want to do, because it did what you taught it, whether you knew you taught it or not.
Yeah, and that's why I say I think you could put most breeds with most people who are willing to invest time in them and get good results. So if time dictates results, and you're gonna make mistakes with your first dog and learn from those mistakes, and your second dog's gonna be better than your first, most likely, and your third will be better than your second, and your fourth will be better than your third. You learn, and if you watch other people work dogs, you'll learn from the things that they do, and the cues that they use, the tactics and the training drills that they do. You learn so much, and then the satisfaction level goes up even higher when you and your dog go out in the field, and for whatever reason you get out of the truck, it's quiet, it's you and your dog, and all of a sudden you kick the dog off and there's a rooster sitting there 20 yards from the truck, and you're like, oh my God, this is awesome. And gets up, you manage to shoot it, the dog brings it back, and you're like, this is going to be the best day ever. And things just start clicking, and then before you know it, you found another bird. And when it was your first dog, you might have flushed that same bird, but the dog's chasing it, your gun's not off safety. You do all the dumb things that a novice hunter does. That, or you forget your whistle, you forget, who knows, a variety
your
of
vest,
things.
your license. Done it all.
Yeah. So we're all just a bunch of people who like dogs and trying to find the one that fits you, your family, your lifestyle. I think that's a lot of what this comes down to. And Boykins are certainly growing in popularity. I expect you guys will continue to see more and more of them out west. I mean, I've got several groups of friends that end up in the Dakotas every year, going out there to do some hunting. It's fun. I used to go out to Harvey, North Dakota, and hunt with some buddies. We went out there 2010 through 2014. Met some great people out there. Most of them had never seen Boykin Spaniels before, so they're always curious to know, like, what can these little dogs do? And it's fun to watch them work. They get beat up like every other dog, busting through cattails, and they're cut up and scratched, and they wake up the next morning tired, but they're ready to go do it again.
Yeah. So Jared, what do you think? Your next dog? I think wife mandated golden retriever field bred, but what do you think about Boykins?
I don't like. Well, like I said, Boykins just again, on paper, they're you read about all the different dogs and stuff like that. And I like to jump shoot ducks and do all that stuff. And then I attempted to do that this weekend with Bones, which did not turn out as well as I expected it to. Which is purely my fault because we never snuck up on ducks together before. It's hard to sneak up on ducks when your dog's 30 yards in front of you.
He's looking for roosters, man.
Looking for roosters, and I was like, that would have been a great shot at the duck had been about 30 yards closer to you. But so that's something we're gonna work on this summer. But anyways, but no, I it's the stuff I do is kind of right in the Boykins kind of realm, and that's kind of why that was kind of where I was originally heading, but just couldn't find it. Not that I'm unhappy with Bones, because I really dig the Spaniels and stuff like that, and it brought me where I'm at right now, which is I'm happy with Bones, but like my wife said, she doesn't really enjoy the super high energy drive of a Springer. So maybe something a little slower might work out. But yeah, Boykins are definitely on the radar, and I think will always be kind of on the radar just because I appreciate the dogs. They just, I don't know, they have a certain style about them and look and all that stuff that I think is pretty cool. The history behind it as well is kind of neat too.
Yeah, they're a different breed. And Jared, the secret sauce to get your wife convinced is probably to get her to a puppy. You know, it's hard for anybody to turn down a puppy when they're halfway interested in getting a dog.
True.
So you find a litter nearby, that may be your first step.
I might have to try that. She was pretty excited about Bones and for about a week, and then she was like, "This dog just doesn't stop." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, eventually it will in about 4 years." So
I got a buddy that's got 2 Boykins right now, and one of his best friends has a Springer, and she is a fantastic young dog, but she's wide open. And I was talking to my buddy a couple weeks ago. He was the guy that owns the Springer. His name is Honey Bun. Honey Bun and his family were on vacation, so Johnny was watching Isla, their Springer. And I said, how's it going? We were talking one night. He said, that dog gives me anxiety. He says, she never stops. And so, I mean, he said she's constantly wanting to do something and just into it, like not bad into everything, but like if you're wanting to do it, she's down to try it. Yep. And so, you know, he's like, I love her to death, but he said her energy level is more than we would want in our home. So I don't know. That's why I say I think a Boykin on a lot of levels is a lower energy level Springer to some degree, and they've got it in their background. So
there's the sell, Jared, is lower energy Springer. That's
what I was like. It's right there. You just said it right there. I was like,
you need to write that down.
I think I might be able to swing a Springer. Boykin. Yeah.
I've always liked the idea of a Boykin. I like smaller dogs. I don't want really a dog over 40 pounds, ideally. So cockers and smaller Springers are mine. My Springers are like 31 and 36, 37 pounds. So they're kind of smaller girls. And I love that because I can pick them both up. I can, like you said earlier, with kennels and food and the whole thing. I mean, if I had 2 labs, which I easily could, I've had labs for a long time, and it would be a different world for me. So I'm happy with the smaller dogs. So there may be a Boykin in my future at some point. I know I definitely need another Springer and a cocker, but I've always been curious about them. Kind of Jared and I both. I know Jared, like you and I for years have been, like, it always comes up that like, and a Boykin seems perfect for the kind of hunting we do.
Yep.
Because we're always in the cattails and in the water and that kind of thing. And it does get cold and frosty. And I remember going duck hunting with my labs, and they'd have icicles hanging off of them, and that's really not Springer territory.
No.
But luckily, I do a lot more upland hunting.
Yeah. The other thing I would tell you about Boykins, I think, depending on where you're at in the country, they have been participating in like HRC and more recently AKC hunt test. And the breed, because it's been young, has probably not always been in the hands of the people who were the most qualified trainers for hunt tests and for field trials. And so I would say over the last 10, 15 years, the dogs are finding their ways more into the hands of pros, more in the way of hands of people who have some experience with some of these events. People like me, who was an amateur and didn't really know what I was doing with my first dog, but I've learned a lot along the way. And so, the breed has come a long way in the last 20 years. So the Boykins that a bunch of people saw in some of the earlier hunt tests and field trials have really come a long way. And I think probably a testament to that is some of the judges that we've had at some of our national events will even say, it's been 10 years since I got invited to judge one of your events, and holy cow, has this breed gotten better. I don't know if it's the breed or I don't know if it's the handlers, but they say either way, what you guys are doing with these dogs, progress is being made. So, I think depending on where you live and what people around you have seen, there could be some stereotypes because the breed is growing and the breed is young. And I would say don't let that stereotype necessarily dissuade somebody from digging in and learning a little bit more about the breed, because it's not your grandpa's Boykin Spaniel. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but the breed has changed.
Yeah.
Makes sense. I mean, it's so young. It's such a young breed that it would only make sense that would happen. I mean, it's good. That fast growth happens earlier. than later, right? Later on, the growth and the kind of growth you're talking about slows down with older breeds, and they became more keep getting better, but they're more stable,
Sure.
and where they're at in their growth. So that stands to reason that that's what would happen. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, and there's plenty of resources. The Boykin Spaniel Society has a website that's boykinspaniel.org. There's a ton of information there. Folks can call the office and ask for information. The society created a preferred breeders program to try to encourage some of the breeding, better breeding of dogs, and recognizes those people as preferred breeders if they apply for that. It doesn't always necessarily mean they're the best dogs, but it means that they're doing the health testing that the society believes is going to lead to better genetic dogs, better bred dogs.
So I have a little kind of off the wall question for you, maybe a scenario. If I came to you, Chris, and said, Chris, someone who's very knowledgeable about the Boykin Spaniel breed, I'm interested in a Boykin. All I'm going to do, just for an example, is pheasant hunt out west. Is the Boykin the right breed for me, assuming I like the size and all of that? Like, is that the way you as just someone to go, or do you steer them another way in the flushing breeds?
So I guess I would ask, what do you, Mike? So a lot of times before I answer a question, I want to know the rest of the story, like the Paul Harvey part of it. And so I would say, like, what are your expectations? And I would want to know, do you want a dog that's going to be able to range out and, be able to stop and point, or do you want a dog that's a true flushing dog, and a dog that, what do you want at home? What do you want? Because the field part of it is only a small component. They're going to end up in the field, maybe if they're lucky, 20% of their life, if they're very lucky. That other 80% is going to be at home and doing the other things that you value or that just life takes you to do. And so I'll answer this by saying I've got a colleague in North Dakota that the first 2 years we went up there and hunted in North Dakota, he had never seen a Boykin. And he's like, man, leave this dog with me. And he said in a month, he said, I'll have this be a killer pheasant dog.
Nice.
And, like he said, I can literally hunt it every day because the way his work is, he's driving by enough fields, CRP, whatever, either early in the morning or late in the evening on the way home. He could stop and hunt for a half hour. Yeah. And he's like, literally, I can turn this dog into a killer pheasant dog. And, he's a guy who has had springers his whole life. So if that helps answer your question, a guy who is a Springer guy.
I guess what I'm trying to get at is they seem very versatile, and they can do a lot. It seems like, can they, if I wanted to take one and put it towards a specialty, would it be okay? Or would it be like, is it kind of a jack of all trades, master of none? Or is like, no, it really can compete with, maybe not the best, but like if you're just out hunting and not testing and trialing, like you won't really notice a difference. The drop off, if any, isn't noticeable. Like, in your opinion or what you've seen, is that the case? Or if someone said, I only want a duck hunt, would you just say, just get a lab or a chassis or something? Or do you say, no, the Boykin can be great if you want the smaller dog?
I would definitely say the Boykin would be great if you want the smaller dog. I'd just say set your expectations right and align your expectations with the breed you're getting. But they can 100% be an awesome upland dog only.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was curious about. Is, it's always a thing. Is like, for example, my brother and I, we've been hunting together since we were kids, and we did a lot of duck hunting and goose hunting when we were younger, and now we've definitely gone to just doing uplands. He's always had labs, and lately he's got back into goose hunting. He was just about to buy a pointer, and he was like, I'm glad I didn't, because now I'm back into goose hunting, and I want my labs. And it's like, because both of those labs are getting old. And it's, as it's easy to go, I want to get a specialist kind of dog, and a Springer kind of is that. Like, it really is an upland dog. Like, yeah, you can do waterfowl, and Josh might be yelling at his phone right now as he's listening to us saying they can do ducks, and I got pictures to prove it, and he's right. But it really is a special upland dog. That's what they're known for. That's what they're good at, and the Boykin is known to do a lot. So sometimes when something's really good at a lot of things, if you just want to do one thing, it's like, just get the thing. If you're really going to do one thing, just get the thing to do one thing. But I haven't heard that with Boykins. I've heard good things. I was curious what your thoughts were on it. Yeah,
and I'll tell you, I'll give you this other example. So my my old guy, he's almost 11. I made the decision with him that I was gonna hunt him very little because I was interested in playing the retriever games, and I wanted to see, did I learn enough from my first couple Boykins that I could produce a really good retriever, and would he then excel at hunt tests and field trials because of that focus? And so I did, and I'm lucky. Like he's a great dog. He's won our national open twice. He won puppy class when he was in puppy. So then after he did that, I was like, one of my buddies was like, you got to try to go and run upland with him, because the society has a title. It's called the dual champion, and you earn dual champion if you win the retriever open and the upland open. So the two national events that are very different. So we were in North Carolina when this happened, and so one of my buddies is Steve Cox. He's pretty close to me. He raises quail, pheasant, chucker, and he's got Boykins, and he's like, you can absolutely do this. He said, I'll help you get started on it. So when he was 7, we started upland hunting, and that year he won the open, but he had so much discipline and obedience. Like I didn't have to teach him. It's like to teach him to sit to the flush, literally one session, and he's been rock solid on it since then. So like they can do a lot. But I also think he would be totally happy to have been a upland specialist his whole life. He loves it, like literally loves it. Yeah,
that's cool. That's a good example. I guess you can't teach dog new tricks. I guess it's the example out of that. Like it's 7 years old, learn something new. But he's been learning. Sounds like he knew how to learn his whole life. He's been practicing his whole life. So to your point, when here's something new to learn, it's like, I know how to learn. I am always learning because we're always working on stuff more in the retrieving world. That's a good story.
Yeah, and from the retrieving side of it, like he knew how to work the wind. When dogs are going to make retrieves on marks, when they get upwind to something, and they realize they're on the wrong side of the wind, and then they loop around that mark and they catch the wind and then they quarter back into it. It doesn't matter what breed it is, Lab, Springer, Chessie, Golden, whatever. They all do the exact same thing. When they loop around and catch that wind, they all quarter back to the bird. Every single breed does that. Yeah. So for him to be turned loose into a field where, we were rolling in some pigeons and some chucker, as soon as he caught wind, he knew exactly what to do. So it was really, really natural for him. And frankly, if I would have got out of his way a little sooner, he would have gotten better after a few sessions, much better than he was after I was trying to screw him up. So
that's how that goes, though.
Yeah, my buddy Steve is like, you're fighting him. You don't need to work him like you're running a blind. Just let him work back and forth. He already realizes what the wind is doing, and he's already working a pattern that he needs to work.
Oh, that's cool.
So, So I was the problem.
Yeah. Oh man. Jared, do you have any other questions for Chris?
No, I think you answered a lot of them. It's just like I think Boykin seems like a pretty cool dog. Like it's definitely on the list for the next one.
Well, so the other thing I would tell anybody who's listening to this is, try to find somebody who's got a good dog, which everybody defines good differently, but go watch them run at an upland event. Go like a shoot to retrieve or something like that, or a field trial, or a HRC weekend hunt test, or an AKC weekend hunt test, and see what the dogs are doing, and just observe, and watch them when they're going back and forth from the truck to the where they're competing, or watch them, what is the owner doing with the dog. And the funny thing to me about Boykin owners, and I'd say a lot of the lab guys will tease them, but the lab guys tend to be sitting on the tailgate with the dog sitting next to them, or loving on the dog, when the lab guys are going back to the truck putting their dogs in the truck. And I don't think the lab guys love their dogs any different, but it's always funny how affectionate, like the affection that the Boykins give owners is really fun. They're a fantastic breed and a great companion. So, get out and see the dog, watch a dog in a variety of environments, and see, like, is this dog doing things that, like, I even care to see it do? Or is it is it the weirdest thing I've ever seen? And I have no interest in it. Be honest with yourself and get the breed that suits you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you kind of, to kind of a few points you brought up earlier, and I'm kind of, you were saying earlier, the amount of time you put into a dog really doesn't matter what breed it is. If you put the time into it and the effort into it, you're going to get what you get out of it. But then, also what you're saying, if you pick, there's the right breed for your personality, probably how you like to train, how you like to hunt. And since, like you said, and we all know, you don't get to hunt as much as you're just living in your house with your family and doing all the day-to-day things, the way your household works, there's a breed for you. And it might be a Boykin, it might be a Lab, it might be, God forbid, a pointing dog. But
or even a Yorkie.
Even a Yorkie. Hey, I love our Yorkies, man. You want a dog that's gonna sit in your shoulder all day and watch TV? That's a Yorkie.
I hear
you. But what's right for, even like Jared and I have been friends for a long time. We hunt together. We can hunt without even talking to each other. We know we know what the other one's thinking when we're out in the field. But like a dog for him is gonna be different than how I raise and train dogs. Even though we both have Springers now. But, it's going to be different depending on how you like to do things. So that's very good advice to get out and see the dogs. When you said that, I realized I don't think I've ever seen a Boykin in person. Like, we just don't see them out here. And I'd love to. Now I kind of want to hunt around and see, no pun intended, and find someone who hunts with the Boykin. It's got to be someone here that does, and just see if we can become friends and maybe get a hunt in together and see how they work, especially just watch them work with a Springer and see what happens. It'd be really cool. Yeah. So. That's my next kind of thing on my list, try to find someone that does that.
Yeah.
Well, I suspect this podcast is a bit of a business. Our Upland Nationals is next weekend. I think this would be a good business expense you guys could write off. Just come out to North Carolina and do a podcast from Nationals.
That's a great idea. All right, Jared. Do you want to convince your wife, or should I convince mine first? Or how should we start with that?
Yeah.
It's a write-off.
Exactly.
Great. All right, Chris. Well, thanks for coming on. I mean, we've been talking for an hour. It doesn't feel like it at all. I think we could talk Boykins for another hour. It's super interesting to learn about a dog that Jared and I don't have a lot of experience with and have always been curious about. So we really appreciate you coming on and talking about it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Thanks for having me and giving me an opportunity to talk about the Boykin Spaniel. It's a breed that really and truly changed my life. I don't know what I'd have done if I ended up with Labs. I could be in the same position I'm in right now. Or something very different, but that probably would have been the other breed that I would have thought I'd ended up with. But they've been good to me. They've been good to my family, and so I suspect some of your listeners will probably find one day, and I hope that they find and have as good of an experience as I've had with them.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah.
Jared, did you have anything else?
Nope.
All right, Chris. Well, thanks again, and we'll have to talk with you later and maybe check in on your Boykins another time.
Yeah, I look forward to it. And Matt, one other thing that I noticed you recently were recognized for some of your artwork.
Yes, thank you.
Congratulations. I think that's a really high honor. Anytime your work ends up in a magazine, somebody recognizes, how excellent it is. And I'm not really an art critic or, not an expert on art, but I did notice one thing missing was there was no Boykin Spaniel.
I'm trying to think, have I done a Boykin? I don't think I have.
Well, there you go. Got done.
Yeah. I see opportunity in your future.
You need to send me some reference photos of your Boykin, or maybe pick one out and send me some, and we'll have to get you on the list.
All right, rock on.
I don't think I've done one. I think I've done a liver colored cocker, but that's not a Boykin.
No.
Got it. Well, let's see what we can do.
All right. That sounds good. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate the kind words.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me again, guys. It's been my pleasure tonight. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Go Flush Yourself podcast. Check us out on social media on Instagram, Facebook, and X. We also have a Patreon, where for a $2 a month subscription, you can help keep our podcast on the air. We also have merchandise available. Please check out the podcast description or the Patreon page for links to merchandise.